So, good afternoon to everyone. My name is Petri Saastamoinen, and I'm born and raised in the Arctic. Have been privileged to work in tourism industry for 2 decades already. I'm happy to talk under the topic of tourism industry as a pathfinder for sustainability. And before we go on that, I'll do a short introduction about our company and about myself. So as mentioned, I've been working quite a long time already in tourism. Luckily, I have not had to learn everything by doing, since also my late father and grandfather used to work among tourism. At the moment, I'm working in a family-owned company called Visit Inari Safaris and Accommodation, and we operate here in the Arctic region in Inari village, about 320 kilometers north from the Arctic Circle. Our service portfolio is covering accommodation, restaurant services, activities and experiences year-round. And the company has operated in the area almost for 40 years now, and it has grown from one-man show into successful business with more than 30 permanent year-round employees at the moment. Our services lean heavily on the nature and nature's phenomena, and of course, local culture and local way of life. Sustainability, why, by who, and to whom? I strongly believe that to do something well with passion, we must have enough knowledge and motivation to aim for our goals. Mahatma Gandhi has well said that the future depends on what we do in the present. The future depends on what we do in the present. So there is no doubt that you, me, we right here and right now have the responsibility on building the future we want to live and pass on to our children and future generations. Being driven by our Stone Age instincts, it's quite natural that we want the best possible quality of life for the coming generation. So on my mind, it's obvious to create the answer for the headline, sustainability, why, by who, and to whom. The answer is because it's vital by us to the future of our children and for the mankind. And what sustainability means for us in our work. Sustainability is in a way a trendy word, and it has many different meanings depending on each of our perspective. Quite often sustainability is seen as an ecological point of view, actions related to pollution or environmental aspect. In our everyday life and in talks and thoughts, sustainability is much wider concept. It's something that has strongly been guiding our actions already for a long time, but something that we have just recently realized once we started to work towards certificate our operations. Besides the environmental aspect, economical and social sustainability are at the core of our actions. As we live in the Arctic, it is easy to recognize the vulnerability of the nature and that we have the responsibility to organize our actions so that the footprint into the nature is minimized. Economical sustainability is something that shows out especially in our actions as an employer. Our aim is to seek permanent year-round employments where the seasonal variation is small as possible. By simplified, it means that the more profitable the business is, more year-round jobs we can create locally here in Inari. This brings us to third but not least part of sustainability, social point of view. By creating year-round jobs, we carry our part developing the vitality and traction of the municipality and the village. So the economical and social sustainability are connected in our point of view. As we live in a small community where we still have existing indigenous Sami culture and then the tourism has developed later on here, it is important incoming for the community nowadays. So it is vital to recognize how the tourism is affecting on the locals and to the local way of life. So my home is here, surrounded by nature, family, and community. It is something that drives my thoughts when thinking about the future of tourism here in Inari and here in the Arctic. If you want to be part of future, take the active role now. As mentioned earlier, the future is built upon the actions that we do today. Therefore, I believe that the only way we can reach the future we wish to reach, we must take the active role in our everyday actions. That is the path to sustainable future. And how does this show up in our actions? Biggest steps that we have recently taken in terms of sustainability are the work towards certification and taking further actions with social sustainability. 1st of October this year, we reached one of our goals as we were granted the Green Key certification for all our operations, meaning accommodation, restaurant services, and activities. Our husky farm is one of the 2 certified husky farms in Finland, and we are the northernmost certified operator in the European Union. One example that we have not managed to recognize in our sustainability actions is that we have operated already last 11 years on our Inari cruise with electric hybrid catamaran, and that is a huge difference in emission comparing to previous ship. And we realized this meaning only by a couple of years back when we started to focus on sustainability. I think that it's obvious that the consumers are valuing more and more certified operators, and I believe that drives more operators also to certified and take care of their services. Actions towards social sustainability can be divided in 2 different parts. I calculate them as an internal actions and values that drive our development, and actions visible outside to our company, to our guests, to the community we are located. Internally, one of our values has already for years been respecting the local community, nature, and culture. This has given us a good base to build our actions, since the guiding value is already in us and in our actions. So for now, we can focus on bringing this into our conscious and take the notice and action that can be improved. One important thing is actions to improve most potential seasons and get even better year-round coverage for the seasons that the guests are visiting over here. Other thing is to actions that get guests stay longer during their visit. This has a big importance both on economic and environmental point of view of sustainability. And what about the things are to be seen outside of the company? We pay lots of effort to communicate with local community and be aware that about the attitude and about the opinions of the locals towards the actions that we do. For us, it is very important that our actions are developing the tourism in the area in a way that it's not over exceeding the tolerance of the local inhabitants. There are several examples how this is materialized in our actions. For example, operating husky farm in reindeer herding area is a good example of this. As you might know, huskies don't have whatsoever cultural historical meaning here in the region. Dogs have never been used as a means of transportation in the area. Instead, they have been used for herding reindeer or hunting elks or hunting grouse. This brings out the challenge to operate husky safaris in the area where the reindeer herding is playing a big role as a way of life. The way that we have approached this is that we have a good communication with Reindeer Herding Grazing Association. By this, we can have up-to-date knowledge about the things that are good to take in notice when operating with the huskies. This communication helps us also to plan our routes in the wilderness so that we are not disturbing the reindeer herding. During the season, we can adapt our actions and our routes so that the reindeers are free to herd in the areas and we are not disturbing that. Other well-known action is our development of the Lake Inari cruise. Earlier, the cruise used to have possibility to embark to Ukko Island. that is one of the sacrificial sites of the Sami culture in the area. During the years, there has been discussions about tourists visiting this island, and it was concerning both in environmental point of view as well as special meaning of the island for the local community. The topic was risen again in 2019. We decided to take a closer look into the product, and as a result for this, we decided to, starting from 2020, we are no longer embarking to the island. Instead, we will go around it and improve the information given to our guests. And by this action, we wanted to carry our part on environmental and social sustainability. Now we have operated 2 whole seasons in this way, and the feedback that we have got shows that the decision was right, and it was the only way to do it properly. There has been a lot of disinformation concerning the embarking to this island. Many have thought that it is forbidden by law to go on the island. By every man's right, it is still allowed to embark to the island. Instead, we wish to show an example that is not necessary, and the sightseeing and tourism product can be done without going on land to this special island. Last but not least, one example that is affecting all locals is the number of tourists visiting in the area. What is the limit of visitors that defines our locals' concern in tourism in a positive or a negative way? During the years when we have developed our accommodation services, we have decided to keep our total capacity in the same level, meaning that every time we build up a new accommodation unit, at the same time we are cutting off older and less energy efficient units. By this, we want to keep the pressure of tourism in moderate level, not driving the local community against tourism. And as a safety issue and to prevent conflicts between visitors and locals, we try to emphasize guided tours when going out in the village or into the wilds. During the pandemic, we built up digital guiding for 2 different outdoor tracks, including informative content without forgetting the safety issues and what should be taken into notice when moving on their own outdoors. By this, we wanted to ensure that the guests wandering on their own would also have the needed information as the ones taking part on our guided tours. Tourism industry as a pathfinder for sustainability. That was the main topic, and it's a good thing to end for that. So the thing I wish that I can share with you is that when there is a will, there is a way for us as an industry be as a pathfinder towards more sustainable future. Already tourism sector is regulated with many laws and rules by the government and other instances. It is up to us. Do we sit and wait for the rules to come in order to act in a sustainable way? Or do we take an active role in the development of these rules? We can be finding out the best available way to act in a responsible way, and to do that before any rules are given to us. By this, we can show that tourism industry can be done in the right way. I want to emphasize the importance of local sustainable way, especially in the regions like ours, where most of the visitors are arriving by flying. Do we want to find the quick profits and increase the volume of visitors so that the nature and local community is not able to endure it, leading to even hot conflict between tourists and locals, leading to irreversible effects on nature? Or do we want to build our industry so that it benefits the local community, offering jobs and increasing quality of services in the area, making it possible to settle one's life outside the big cities here in the north, acting in a way that it secures the beautiful Arctic nature and indigenous culture years to come? Time is our most valuable asset. We have only limited amount of it, and it's not possible to buy it more. Therefore, I warmly thank you for your time. I hope that you feel it was well spent for this short introduction for my point of view for sustainable way in the tourism industry. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Petri. Any comments or questions to Petri? Karel is saying thank you for your interesting presentation.
I've got a question. Hi, it's Ros Bryce again. You mentioned, thanks for your presentation. It was really interesting perspective. You talked a lot about involving communities and consulting with communities about the impacts of tourism. But could you say a bit more about how communities have been involved with the development of tourism initiatives through setting up new initiatives or new businesses? And how active have they been in that process, particularly during the pandemic and the time after that?
Well, that is a good question. Basically, during the pandemic, I think that everything was more or less on pause mode. So there was not that much of the development going on. I've been really happy to notice that for the past years, it has been more and more active to invite the local community to take part on for example, planning where to build, what to build. So the discussion is going to more open way. At the same time, the awareness of the sustainability is getting higher. So we are looking at things in a different perspective than we did in 10 years ago, for example. So basically, I divide my answer in 2 points. First, how municipality, for example, is doing it. They try to invite the community to take part on the planning, try to hear that what they have to say. And then the other part is that how do we as a private company develop our services? The way that we do it, we try to have as much as possible open negotiation with locals, with friends, with families, with neighbors, with reindeer herding families, with Sami Parliament, for example, with Sida Museum, which is the Northern Nature Center, and Sami Museum. So we try to keep the ears and eyes open that how do people think about developing tourism in these regions. I hope that this answered your question.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, many thanking messages to you, Petri, and there's one question. I was wondering, this is from Becky, I was wondering how you are able to adapt the way you work with the Huskies with regards to the traditional reindeer herding activities that you mentioned.
Once again, really good question. If I tell the background on the Husky story here, I'm a bit of a stranger or the black lamb when talking about the Huskies and tourism. Quite often you see the Huskies in the front page inviting people to Lapland. On the contrary, I try to emphasize that the Huskies, they are really nice products, but they have nothing to do with the local way of life or the local things to do over here. Saying that, we do operate and own a Husky farm because the demand for the service is that high, and it is quite sustainable product for our guests to experience. And how do we do it? Basically, we have only one track that we are using for the Huskies, and the track is built into the area that is not disturbing the reindeer herding. And the biggest collisions with the reindeer herding comes usually from the Husky operators that don't have a permanent place over here. It can be a Husky operator from other place to come over here for 1 week or for 1 season, and they don't necessarily know that what reindeer herding means or where they are herding reindeers. So, for example, in our farm, the dog houses for our Huskies are built so that in case the dog for some reason is getting loose from its own space, they are still surrounded by another fence. So we prevent any Huskies to going outside of the farm and then probably making harm to reindeers or other animals. So it's quite long for just being cautious and trying to double check all the actions that we do. And about the informative side, our guides are of course trying to offer the information to our guests in in a realistic way. So they are telling that huskies are a nice way to go around the outdoors, but it's something that has been brought into here.
Thank you, Petri. And Kirsi has put in the chat also information from the Sami Parliament in Finland and the instructions and guidelines